Hello and welcome to another video, and this is not a video I had planned at all. This is honestly not even a video I even thought I would ever be making. But I have to comment on this because it's such a monumental thing. It's a huge deal for me personally, and I have a lot to say about it. So I also don't see a lot of videos, opinionated videos on YouTube talking about this. So which I'm sure more are going to come, but I just want to throw this out, and I want to discuss and give my opinion on the situation. So if you guys don't know, I've talked about this a lot on the channel over the years. My channel is about 5 years old now. I'm a massive Giant Bomb fan. I'm a huge Giant Bomb fan. I've been with them since the beginning in 2008. Maybe like 3 or 4 episodes after they started. My history there is they were on an episode of the One Up Yours podcast, which if you don't know, One Up used to be a website that had a bunch of people on there. Like, have you ever heard of Luke Smith, the guy that basically runs Bungie now? He started out as a games journalist. He was on that podcast. It was a fantastic podcast, and when it was starting, they had Ryan Davis, unfortunately no longer with us, and Jeff Gerstmann on to talk about that, and I thought they were both hilarious, and I'd never heard of them at that time. I wasn't really a big GameSpot person, so I checked out the podcast and loved it, and listened to it pretty much faithfully every week for the last 14 years. It's been a big part of my adult life, listening to that podcast weekly, and I've dipped in and out here and there. Sometimes, life happens, but, even in the recent years, like last 4 or 5 years, I've supported them. I've been a subscriber to Giant Bomb, to give them that support. So last year, and I didn't make a video about this last year because I wanted to kind of see how things shake out, but 3 of the core people that have mostly been there since the beginning. One of them came on like in 09, 010, but Brad Shoemaker, Vinny Caravella, and Alex, all 3 of them decided to leave. And it was very clear, and the picture was kind of starting to come through at that point of like, basically in I want to say it was 2014, maybe it was 2012, around that time after Ryan Davis passed, and Jeff was kind of the sole head of Giant Bomb at that point. He actually, performed the ultimate fuck you move, and he basically sold the company he created to the company that fired him, which was GameSpot, which was owned by CBS. He sold Giant Bomb to CBS, and they had been there for, 8 years, and then another company called Red Ventures kind of took over and bought them out. And it was very clear when this happened that behind the scenes, and they've never discussed this publicly, I'll state this is all speculation, but it's pretty obvious that Red Ventures has ideas and what they want to do for Giant Bomb, and it doesn't click with the old guard of Giant Bomb. It's not what they're interested in doing. And you saw departures right away. You saw people like Ben and Abby, they left right away. They were some of the first people to go. And then you had the big departures with Brad, Vinny, and Alex, but Jeff stuck around. And that was the interesting thing. It was like Jeff stuck around, and it's clear to me, and I said this at the time to myself, I was like, I bet you he's going to stick around a little bit longer to kind of pave the way for a new Giant Bomb. And so you've had this Giant Bomb that's been... they brought Jeff Bakalar, who was kind of a friend with the Giant Bomb East crew. He worked for CNET. They brought him over officially, and he's been kind of one of the head honchos at Giant Bomb in the last year or so. He's brought a lot of new content, none of which I think is very good, if I'm being honest. But you had everybody else that was still there kind of stayed. Jan Ochoa, Jason, Rory. I'm sure I'm forgetting names, but you had other people come in and whatnot, and they kind of been kicking around the Bombcast, and I've still been listening to it, but I tune it in or out every so often. But it just hasn't been the same without those core people. And those 3 people that left, they went and formed Nextlander, which is fantastic, and I encourage you to go check that out. But it was clear at the time that Jeff, not interested, really in staying, but they probably extended his contract to, a certain amount of time so he could kind of position the new crew of people and then could leave amicably. I think what happened here, and this is the difference, and this is where I speculate again, this is not known facts or anything like that, but given the way this was presented, he didn't leave amicably. It's very clear. When Brad, Vinny, and Alex left, it was like a week of goodbyes, man. They had their last Bombcast together, they had their last Beastcast together, they had a final stream with everybody. It was for all intents and purposes a goodbye ceremony for like a week. They didn't do that for Jeff. And that's what makes me think that he probably was under contract much longer and went to Red Ventures and said, you know what, I want out of this. And I think they forced him out. And they said, you know what, if you want out, you got to give us the keys and you can get out. And so this is why it's really bizarre, is they posted this blog post last night on the official site announcing, a lot is changing at Giant Bomb. And these are the problems I have with it. And this is where I started to have problems and started to get a little ticked off. We're not going to just gloss over this kind of heavy-hitting news. It's a big moment. Jeff is a co-founder of Giant Bomb and has been in the heart of the site since it launched in 2008. Those kind of words are weird. And I should preface this. The first statement here, the first sentence says the following. Starting today, we want to enter a new era of transparency with you, the GB audience. So here's what you need to know. Giant Bomb and Jeff Gerstmann have agreed to go our separate ways. That statement, that sentence right there, tells me that this was not an amicable, end. This was, my guess is he probably went to them and said, I know I'm here until X date, but I want out now. I'm just not feeling this anymore. And they kicked him to the door, like harshly kicked him to the door. I could be wrong on all this. This is just speculation. But again, to announce this in this weird ass blog post, he doesn't get a formal goodbye. He doesn't get to tell the audience that he built and created for 14 years goodbye on his own website. He doesn't get to do any of that. Instead, you get a blog post that's shittily put together by, they say it's the Giant Bomb staff, but I'm sure they had someone write this up for them. That was a very PC way to say everything. Basically, I'm not going to read the rest of this. This goes on for about 2 pages, but essentially the bottom line is, after you get through those statements, the rest of this is basically begging the audience to stay with Giant Bomb. Oh, hey, and they repeated that sentiment today on the first Bombcast without Jeff, where they have announced who the new crew is, which it's some people that used to work at GameSpot, and then they brought Dan Reichert back, which, fine, but as somebody I read on Reddit had a great point on this, and I agree with it. It's, I'm not into recycled content, and I have to kind of agree. Like, I liked Dan Reichert when he interacted with the other core people of Giant Bomb. None of them are there anymore, so why should I care? And I feel like he was the easiest person to go after to get back, because they need somebody that was a part of this website prior to keep butts in seats and wallets opening to pay for subscriptions. So it's just very clear, and they spend so much time begging the audience to stay. But they also put out a thing today, and this is the same weird, it's a shitty sentiment to me, where they keep saying, they keep hammering home over and over again, Giant Bomb is not one person. Giant Bomb is, a collective group of people and blah, 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 whatever. It's like, I understand that, but your founder, I hate using the term co-founder, because the co-founder, it was him and Ryan Davis. Ryan Davis is dead, so for all intents and purposes, Jeff Gerstmann is Giant Bomb. This dude created this website, he created this idea, he created this podcast. This is all him. And unfortunately, he sold it away years ago, and so he no longer has that control over it. So he basically seems like he was forced out after either he asked for his own release or they decided, and I could be completely wrong. Maybe he did something behind the scenes that pissed somebody off. I don't know. But it just doesn't seem like Gerstmann's not that type of person from what I see. I really feel like this was hey, he wanted out. He wants, he just had a second kid. He wants to concentrate on that, but he still wants to do a podcast. So on the flip side of this, and this is why I waited to do this video, he had his own Twitch stream this morning. He did not devolve any details about why he left Giant Bomb, but he pushed go on the button for what he's doing next already, which, he basically threw together a podcast called The Jeff Gerstmann Show. And he launched a Patreon, which the last I looked at the recording of this video has over 4,000 Patreons. It is now, I think, either the second highest or the highest gaming podcast Patreon, maybe behind Last Stand Media on Patreon. And I'll say this because I did the math. If it's just people that are at the lowest tier, the $5 tier, this is a guy who's now pulling in $20,000 a month. So, I mean, and here's where I have the issues with this part of it. I love Jeff Gerstmann to continue podcasting. I love this man to death when it comes to his stories, his knowledge and experience in the video game industry. It's fantastic stuff. But he's also talking about basically building the next Giant Bomb. That's what he's talking about. He's talking about building another website, bringing other people in. It just sounds like he wants to rebuild Giant Bomb again. For me, I think, and that's where I think it boils down to, I think he kind of regretted selling Giant Bomb, and now he wants to create his own thing again. He's watched some of these other people leave big, high-profile companies, like Greg Miller of Kinda Funny. They left and they created Kinda Funny through the Patreon thing, and that's been hugely successful. And then you saw, Colin Moriarty leave them, go create his own. Now that's extremely successful, Last Stand Media. But we've seen this time and time again, and I think he's been watching that the last couple of years and saying, maybe I should go do that. And more recently, obviously, the three dudes that left and created Nextlander, they're extremely successful as well. So it's a bizarre situation. For me personally, as somebody that's been with Giant Bomb for 14 years, I'm out at this point. I actually, it was one of those things, it's very funny, my subscription for Giant Bomb renews in February. It was one of those things, it's very funny, my subscription for Giant Bomb renews in February every year. And it hit renewal time this year. I said to myself, I don't know if I really want to renew it this year, but the only thing that was keeping me there was Jeff. And I was like, well, he's still there, so, that's pretty cool. And I let it renew. I fucking regret that now. And I know I could be petty and go cancel it. I'll leave it until it comes up next February, and then I'll cancel it. I'll check in from time to time and see what's going on with it. I'm curious. I'm very curious to see if it's successful. My opinion is it's not. I mean, you saw the thumbnail for this video, because I really believe this is the death of Giant Bomb. At least how myself and everybody else, grew up with Giant Bomb. I mean, again, I've said, Giant Bomb has been a part of my adult life for 14 years. I've been there since the beginning. So to see this happen at the end, it's fucking wild. And I don't know, man. I had a lot of thoughts on this, so I wanted to put up a video. And like I said, I was kind of looking at the YouTube algorithm. I don't really do that very often, but I kept searching to see, what are people's opinions of this? I've only read Reddit opinions. Because if I'm being honest, I don't really trust the opinions that are being posted on Giant Bomb's website by people that are subscribers, because of course they're going to be okay with it. They paid money for this, but it's mixed. I'll say you have a group of people that are like, yeah, I'll stick around to see how it goes, and you have other people like myself that are like, fuck it, I'm out. If he's gone, I'm gone. And that's kind of just how I feel about it. It's not Giant Bomb without Jeff Gerstmann, the guy who created it. So, it's something else entirely. And we'll have to wait and we'll have to see. Maybe they change the name of this. Maybe they do something else. I have no idea. But wow, man, and that's the biggest reason I want to make this video is this is a 14-year thing. This is something I have followed for 14 years. I'm trying to remember anything else that I've followed for that long. You know what I mean? It's hard. It's really hard to come up with that kind of stuff. And I mean Batman, but hey, man, that's a little bit different. But this is crazy. This is absolutely crazy. I have no idea what's going to happen with that stuff. I can't wait. It sounds like he's going to have his first official podcast episode next week. So I look forward to listening to that and seeing like what the structure of it is. And I'll even say like right now, like, you know, and this is just me speaking personally, like not only am I a fan of Giant Bomb Jeff Gerstmann, like this is a dude that I admire the hell out of. I mean, the main reason why I started Podcast 572, my own personal podcast, is Jeff Gerstmann. Like my biggest influences are, you know, for starting a podcast are him and Kevin Smith. It's a huge deal. You know, it's a really big deal. So, and again, I'm trying to plug it more on these videos, but if you haven't listened to it again yet, Podcast 572, you know, it's the podcast that I started last October. You can get it basically any podcast service has it. You get it on iTunes, you can get it on Spotify. We just recorded and put up episode 12. Please go check it out. Very, very soon, I'm going to start hosting audio of the podcast on the Marble Gallery channel, just to try and get you know, subscribers that maybe aren't, you know, of my YouTube channel that aren't aware that I have a podcast, to be able to have an outlet to listen to it. Down the road, if it gets bigger, I mean, we've actually been pretty successful, but if it gets bigger, maybe we'll consider recording the video of it as well and putting that up on YouTube. But for right now, I'm going to start hosting it here, hopefully within the next week or two. So anyways, guys, let me know, what do you think of the Giant Bomb situation, Jeff Gerstmann leaving? I'm really curious. That's why I wanted to make this video, is because I wanted to see if I get some comments, if other people have the same opinions that I have, or if they're different on it. Let me know in the comments below. Remember to like, share, and subscribe to the channel. And as always,